everyone, so I wanted to show you how I improved this planchette. This came with a Ouija board that I bought not so long back, just for decorative purposes, not to actually use it as a Ouija board. And this little planchette came with it, and I like the shape of it, but I didn't like the design. So I decided to give it a fumsmusings makeover for Halloween. So first of all, I stuck on one of my little resin skulls that I've made using the little skull mold that I bought online. And these hands were little hair clips that I got last year during Halloween time. I think they're from Claire's, I think. They weren't very expensive. They were, however, both right hands. So what I had to do with this other hand is I had to swap the little finger and the thumb over. So that's why the hand is a slightly different shape to the other one, but not enough where you'd actually really notice. And then I wanted the hands sort of holding on to the skull. So I stuck them in that position. And then I just put extra glue down the sides just to make sure everything was stuck down well. And I wanted to make sure it was nice and solid before doing any of the next steps. And I'm just filling in any gaps between where the hands are and the board, just to make sure that there's no gaps later on and they don't move. And then also putting a little bit of glue on a couple of the fingers that touch the skull, just to hold the hands in position, just to make them more secure. Then what I needed to do was just let the hot glue cool down a bit, because it takes a little second or so just to cool. And then what I needed to do was apply a layer of Mod Podge over the whole thing, and then a layer of like 1 ply of paper towel, because I wanted to obviously get rid of the printing that was already on the planchette and also add some texture to the piece. So what I'm doing here is just putting a layer of Mod Podge on, then over the top of that I'm putting a layer of tissue paper. It's just some kitchen roll where I've separated the 2 plies out, and then I'll put a bit more Mod Podge over the top just to make sure that's well stuck down. And to speed up the drying, because this is small, it dries fairly quick anyway, but to speed up the drying process, it's just a case of using a heat gun or a hairdryer just to help the Mod Podge dry off. It does dry off quite quick, and I found this dried a lot quicker than when I did paper mache products before with PVA glue. Any tissue that's over the edge that I don't need, I just snipped off with scissors just to keep the edges fairly neat, because I wasn't bothered about decorating the back or anything, because this is going to be hung up on my wall as a decoration. And then what I did was went round the hands and the skull and filled in the rest of the spaces with the tissue paper and Mod Podge mix. And once that was dry, I took some black acrylic paint and painted the whole thing black, skull, hands and the planchette, just to make sure it all matched. I wanted it to all have the same base colour, so it looked like all one solid piece. And then I used my heat gun a little bit to help quicken the drying process on the black paint. And then the next thing I wanted to do was add a dry brush of something just to make all that nice texture stand out and the details of the skull and the hands and everything stand out. So I took one of the metallic luster waxes that I've got in my kit. It's basically just a gilding wax in silver, and as you can see, the minute you apply a little bit of that over the surface, all that lovely texture just pops out, so you can see it. And I applied this all around the edges and all around the front of the planchette, and it just makes all those lovely textures stand out, and also kind of gives the piece a metallic kind of look. So if you look at the minute where the skull and the hands are, can you see you can't really see a lot of the details of the skull? Well, more of those will show up when I apply more of this luster wax over the top. That was a little piece for some reason that hadn't quite dried, so it rubbed off, but I did just touch that up with a little bit of black paint later on and fix that little tear by just dabbing some black paint as well as the silver onto the top. And you don't need to press too hard or anything, and you just get a little bit on the tip of your finger or a cloth and wipe it over the piece, and it makes all those details that on the raised surfaces really show up. As you can see, it makes all the bones of the hands stand out a lot more. The bones of the wrists stand out. It just really makes any textures and details really pop, which is what I like. And I like the colour scheme of black and silver anyway. Then I applied a little bit on the skull as well, and as you can see, that makes the details of the skull's face start to really show up. It was a bit fiddly, obviously working around the hands. Maybe in hindsight I wouldn't have glued the fingers to the skull until the end, but never mind. So I'm just applying it here and there. I want to make sure the details of the eye sockets and the nose stand out, the forehead, as much as can be seen through the hands. And I applied a little dab here and there, anywhere where I felt it needed a bit more. Now at this stage I was like, I like it, but there's two big areas where there's nothing there. I just felt it looked a little plain and needed a little bit more detail. So what I did was I had a look in my drawer where I've got lots of little crafty bits and bobs, just random things left over from other projects, bits left over where I've got them and not quite thought what to use them for yet. And I found this little rubber vampire bat. This has been painted black and had the luster wax stuff put over the top last year because it was part of a Halloween wreath I made. So I decided I was going to use him, and then I needed something to go at the bottom, so I had another little rummage around in my drawer, and you'll see in a little bit what I found was this little silver moon charm, and I decided to use that on the bottom. I then added the bat to the top, and I found that slid in perfectly into place like it was always meant to be there, so that was quite good. And then I added a little bit more of the silver stuff to the bat just to make it more the same sort of colour as the rest of the project. And this wax I've got is dried out quite a bit, so I find if I get a baby wipe, I can get it. If you add moisture to the surface, it just does work better. I do need to get a new one really. For some reason this one, when I bought it, it was dry and I had to fix it. And then once the planchette was finished, it looked like this. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.